Good evening, Internet, and welcome back to our friendly little podcast, Kenter at Your Own Risk, episode number 46, where Kent, Kevin, and Chris are going to discuss probably our top 5 and maybe a bunch of honorable mentions for a genre of horror that is kind of niche, but also kind of pretty awesome and doesn't get mentioned very often in Gothic horror, also branching into fairy tales. First of all, it's been a couple weeks since we guys have done this. I'm doing good. I haven't had a chance to watch a ton of horror stuff lately, but, I've been trying. Kent and Kevin, how are you guys doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I didn't watch as many as I would have liked either of this kind of genre, but I did get in my bare minimum, so... well, maybe not bare minimum, but like the low bar.
Gotcha. Kent, how about you? How you doing?
I've had vertigo all weekend, so I did not get in. There's 3 movies in particular I really wanted to watch, or I started to and fell asleep because the medication for it puts my ass to sleep. So, I'm not completely wholly unprepared, but this is probably a pretty low bar for me as far as preparation goes. But thankfully, I've seen enough. First off, I just want to say that I liked the idea of this, and simultaneously, I opted not to do anything with fairy tales because I could kind of do a whole list on fairy tales in and of itself, so I kept mine very just Gothic for whatever the hell that's worth. And I guess I kind of wanted to just start off by asking, I'll ask Kevin, since he's the one that came up with this. Kevin, what the hell were you thinking here? Gothic doesn't mean anything according to the internet, and the internet's never wrong. Well, so defend yourself.
It means a lot of things, but it's not really clearly defined in film, mostly. But I honestly didn't know what I was doing. I had like a sense of what it meant, but then once I said it out loud to you guys, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do it this month," and then I'm like, "What's a Gothic movie?" I don't even know. Like I knew of, there's a lot of like vampire movies, and then you start getting into like the architecture of it, and
you watch the movie called Gothic, and there you go. And then you watch Gothica after that, and you're all set.
Yeah, those got away from me actually. But I was like, this is the time that I finally watched Gothic. I only been staring down that cover for years, the video store.
Like 30 some odd years, and I was feeling the same thing, and I completely didn't watch it either.
I think I tried watching it as a kid. Have you never seen it before? Anyone?
No.
I've seen snippets of it, but my parents, the big reason they didn't want us to watch was because of the sex. So.
Yeah, maybe that's why.
So that actually should have made me want to see it.
Maybe that's why I didn't finish it all the way. I've always thought it was kind of boring, but maybe because I think my dad did rent it one time, but I don't know that I actually got to see it. So that might be why. But I do feel like I started watching it and I wasn't into it.
I'm going to toss this out here since I did. This is probably the most prepared part I have for this whole podcast. Is like, here's a list of things that kind of, if I search between different sites and different lists, these were kind of like the characteristics of Gothic because for the past month I've been like, hey, I'm doing a Gothic podcast, and then people are like, what's Gothic other than Dracula and Frankenstein? And I'm just like, oh, you left out Edgar Allan Poe, and then I'm sitting there like a fucking jackass because I really don't know. So for anybody listening to this, here's some Gothic characteristics per the internet. I don't know, but environment of fear, threat of supernatural events, intrusion of the past upon the present, or like being like hauntings, claustrophobia, castles, religious buildings, crypts, vengeful persecution, not just any persecution, but vengeful, some kind of imprisonment, murder, stories that like aren't necessarily told like in chronological order. Stories that may have changing narrators. Stories that have like a sleep-like, death-like, or dream-like states at some point or another. There could be something to do with like echoes or silence. There could be something to do with discovery of obscured family ties, which I did come across in a couple of these, and demons, possessions, and ghosts. And those were like the main criteria among like the stuff that I came across. I have no idea if you guys have any other criteria that you came about that like led to anything Gothic by any chance. I don't know.
The major stuff I've always seen when talking about Gothic horror is definitely slow burn versus in your face. It's not focused on gore and terror and shock. It's more
like suspense.
The environment, suspense, building a feeling of dread, isolation. But a lot of the trappings that we see in typically what we think of Gothic horror usually revolve around kind of like that Elizabethan, maybe even older time frame in regards to the way the settings look. Like anything Poe is pretty much, like a perfect example of a good foundation for Gothic horror. So think of there and go on from Edgar Allan.
Oh.
Yeah, I think Poe's kind of basically the poster child of the genre, quite frankly. Like, I came in really thinking of Dracula and Frankenstein, but so much, every list involved at least one or two Poe stories. So, really seemed like a safe bet.
Yeah, and I got like a lot of this list I have. It's 10 key elements of Gothic literature, and a lot of it is like set in a haunted house. It's mostly the cliches of it: damsel in distress, set in a haunted house or castle, burdened male protagonist, and atmosphere of mystery, suspense. Kind of a lot of the things that you said, but in like maybe a little. Oh, this one's funny. The weather is always awful, but that's not like every single one, but that I watched. But well, yeah, it is. It's pretty spot on.
It's pretty true.
And Dreaming and Nightmares, which you guys definitely hit on. So yeah, you guys want to get into this? All right.
Let's do it. Take it away,
So
Kevin.
my number 5 is Spencer, 2021, directed by Pablo Larraín, screenplay by Stephen Knight. As the movie opens, it says "keep noise to a minimum. They can hear you." It's a sign inside the kitchen at the Buckingham Palace, because this is the story of Princess Diana, but not my mother's Princess Diana movie for sure. It's a paranoid psychological drama told in the style of a grim fairy tale with Gothic horror elements, with the damsel in distress, but is also the burdened protagonist, Princess Diana, played by Kristen Stewart. And she is trapped on the grounds of, the royal palace, during a week of Christmas in 1991. And Princess Diana is haunted by the ghost of Henry VIII and his wives that he married and murdered after meeting another woman. Estranged from her husband, Prince Charles, but still on the same grounds and still has dinner every once in a while. It's like all of the worst fears you could have about living with your ex, but like on this grand scale, where everyone's watching her in this. It's it's cool. All right, so this isn't like wouldn't really be considered a horror, but there is elements of it, and the way it's shot and the music to it all are kind of have that like horror feel, the aesthetic um, of kind of maybe more modern horror films with that newer kind of like moving camera panning and suspense music, but with like a real like princess from my lifetime, and it kind of has like a fable aspect, um, and it kind of like takes Princess Diana and puts her in this other kind of like supernatural-esque world, where she kind of lives on through these like I don't know like the old stories of King Henry VIII, and I don't know, it's pretty cool. It's kind of like a real life ghost story because she dies, but not in the film. We just know that about her. So it was a really cool take on it. Pablo Larraín did the Jackie O movie with Natalie Portman, and I don't I only saw a little bit of it, but it didn't really have the the paranoid feel that this does. It, and he did Lizzie's Story, I think, on Apple TV, which is a Stephen King thing. So it was kind of a little bit of a combination of both of those. But I think the best way to describe this movie is that if you take a Lifetime movie about Princess Diana and then you get like Darren Aronofsky to direct it in like kind of like a Black Swan sort of way, and you kind of get Spencer. So have you guys seen this? You've heard of it? Oh, nice.
Actually, yes. Yeah, I've seen it. I watched it with my wife. Yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm not going to judge anybody's list, but this is definitely a very uncomfortable movie. It's not like something you watch and you to like feel good about like Princess Diana's life.
Yeah, I was describing this movie to my mom when I first saw it. I was so stoked on it, and she's just like, "What is she paranoid about?" It's like, I don't know, but super paranoid.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did a good job with the not just the paranoia, but like all of the mental shit that she was going through. Like the kitchen scenes, stood out to me.
What about you, Kent?
No, I haven't seen it. I avoid Kristens as much as humanly possible, so, this one just... I didn't know this movie existed, to be fair. So, but you did name drop Darren Aronofsky and Black Swan, so is this available streaming
Hulu.
someplace?
Hulu.
Yeah, it was Netflix, wasn't it?
Is what I saw.
Hulu. Okay, yeah.
By the way, fuck Netflix. Sorry, gotta say it. I just got billed for $30 for having one additional profile on my thing. I'm like, $30? That's where we're at for Netflix? That seems extraordinary for for Netflix. Am I
$30?
wrong for saying that?
For
$30 a month
profiles? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, for 2 profiles. It seems like a lot. Like 20, maybe like 22 is like the max.
I haven't paid for Netflix in a while.
Very unhappy. But that's my that's my offering for.
No, it should be like $30 a
year.
year. Maybe not, but like $100 a year. So that's like 3 months.
Prices have gone up so much from where they used to be.
Well, Shudder just raised their price up to $7 a month now, so I'll be getting rid of that until October most likely. And what else? Something else just went up, but at least Paramount and Showtime combined forces give us a little Captain Planet shit, so that's a minor perk.
Yeah.
I guess.
Calling Paramount Captain Planet.
You're welcome.
Okay, number
All right, Kevin, what do you got
4
next?
is The Lure, 2015. I meant to actually look up the director's name, like on a video or something, because I do not think I can pronounce this. Agnieszka Smazaka. I have never even tried to pronounce that, so I'm sorry to the director if you ever hear this. This was a Criterion, and it's also on Max right now. So this is loosely based on The Little Mermaid and screenplay by Robert Balesto. And a lot of Gothic movies, a lot of fairy tale stuff has a lot of those Gothic elements to it. Um, this one is probably the furthest away from Gothic, but uh, it's set in the 1980s with two mermaids join a nightclub music act. One falls in love, and the other eats men's hearts, quite literally. This is a horror story, musical, and a fairy tale with one that falls in love, must marry, or she and her sister will turn into sea foam, which is prophesized by Trident, who is the singer of a metal band. Uh, did I mention that this movie is Polish? So, uh, this and it's also super wild. Tons of nudity. The full frontal has the mermaid's anatomy looking like Barbie dolls, though, and the special effects, the CGI. I'm guessing that some of it, at least the mermaid stuff, it all looks pretty good. I have no idea what the budget was for this, but uh, one of them cuts off their tail to be human and marry the bass player. Uh, but to him, she's just kind of always a fish. Uh, and it has the she loses her voice as a nightclub act. It actually has more effect than, say, Ariel in The Little Mermaid, and she is totally bloodied up from the surgery, and that grosses him out too. So this guy is really, I think, not even worth her time anymore. But I highly recommend this, The Lure. Have you guys heard this one? And oh, also, this was like one of the first movies I watched on Criterion, uh, like a random watch, and I was like, I'm never getting rid of this channel. So
Never heard of it. Sounds kind of batshit crazy. Is
I love Kevin's lists.
Yeah, I mean, it gives me something to kind of be like, well, if I'm having a weird night and I want to get a little more freaky, I just pull up whatever the hell Kevin just told us in a podcast.
yeah, this is a good one.
There's my night usually. Um, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Is it something fun to watch with other people? Or
I
is
don't,
this a movie to watch
maybe
alone?
because I don't
Kevin?
know. You should probably watch it alone. But yeah, it's not one. I don't know. Yeah, if people who like horror and like kind of like wild movies, yeah, this is definitely one. It's an hour and a half, and it also has a bunch of music in it. It is a musical. It's but it's like cooler music. It's not really like I don't know. It's its own thing. But yeah, I think it's fun. It's uh you could definitely watch this movie with beers with people. But it's definitely takes itself serious with being wild.
All right. I mean, if I could watch
Yeah.
Salo in
Yeah.
Possession with people,
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
this
Yeah. It's not as
could be
wild as
game
Possession,
by those
but
standards. I'm
not
guessing.
much is.
Got it. Chris, I'm guessing you ain't seen it.
No, I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, so it's one of the
It definitely
movies
sounds
that
like something I will watch.
Max picked up through, like, I don't know, the Criterion.
Indeed.
I don't know. There's like a certain percentage of Criterion movies. I think it's a lot of the ones that Warner Brothers or whatever owns of. I don't know what real connection with Criterion and Max's, but there is a decent amount of the batshit movies. Like Haxan is on there too on Max, which is a cool documentary, and probably you could fit on here because of the time era of the witches and stuff like that. But anyways, moving on. Number 3, Rebecca, 1940, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, written by Robert E. Sherwood and Joan Harrison. Handsome aristocrat Maxim de Winter, played by Laurence Olivier, meets a young woman, Joan Fontaine, and they fall in love, and he moves her to her estate, making her his second wife after his first wife, Rebecca, died a year before. It seems Rebecca still has a presence over the staff and Maxim, and especially the head of housekeeper in her absence. This also isn't like full-on horror, and really doesn't reveal that it's even a suspense movie until like 30 minutes in, like most Hitchcock movie, or his better ones anyways. It's like the power that she has over the staff of the estate, and especially the head housekeeper, is kind of like it immediately gets tense and creepy. And it almost has a feeling of Rebecca is a ghost haunting the new Mrs. De Winter, but maybe just her, I don't know, hold, or is it the housekeeper was just super obsessed with her because everything gets compared to Rebecca, the first Mrs. De Winter. And an interesting thing is that the second Mrs. De Winter doesn't even have a first name in this movie, which I think is pretty cool. And, you know, it comes in, I don't know if it's like would be considered a noir, but like most noir films from that period have that, like, where everything gets explained and wrapped in a neat bow, and it has all of that about Rebecca's death, and it's, you know, mysterious, or in true Gothic fashion, you know, Maxim has a secret. Is he still in love with Rebecca? This movie is a great film and actually won Best Picture in 1941. And it kind of, I don't know, just to me, I don't know about like other people and what they would get from this, but it just kind of feels like about the harm that death can have, like on our lives when, you know, when we don't move on or let go or can't. But I don't know if everyone else would get that, but I kind of got that this time around. So you guys know of this one? Oh, there's also a remake on Netflix with Armie Hammer, and Lily James, that I haven't seen.
You know what? This is one that I know about. I've heard about it. I've read about it, but I've never watched. Mostly when I was like doing my Hitchcock studies and getting into him. It's definitely one that ranks up there. I think it was his first American success. You know, the first one that crossed over for him. Yeah, and like you said, it's been remade like 4 or 5 different times. I think 3 movies and a miniseries on BBC. The BBC one looks good because Charles Dance, who I really like, played the Laurence Olivier part, and Diana Rigg from the old TV show The Avengers played his wife.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, no, that's cool. When was that made?
Yeah, Tywin Lannister. I think 97, 98, that's somewhere cool. Around there.
What about you, Kent?
Nope. I think I have this on Blu-ray. I have 2 big Hitchcock collections on Blu-ray, and I haven't delved into them Aside from like the huge names, like most of them I just haven't hit up. And I did see this though on like 2 or 3 of the lists that I came across. It just it was a matter of making time for something that I wasn't 100% sold on
Blu-ray
at the moment, so I did not watch it.
Are they individual Blu-rays, or are they collections?
It's 2 different collections. One has, I don't know, I want to say like 13 movies, and the other one has like, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them. So I'm guessing. I mean,
maybe.
Rebecca may not
I
be
see
on either one, but I'm speculating.
Rebecca's got the Criterion release,
probably
but
is.
I don't know if it had a previous single release.
I had a 28 disc Hitchcock collection at one point, but it was old DVD, low res quality stuff. So it wasn't one of the things that I kept, because trying to watch it.
I think
now
I have
is
that
like
collection. I don't know. I have a big
watching
one,
something
but
that
I
see. You know,
yeah,
trying to
it
watch, like,
didn't have
HD
any
on a
movies that I
CRTV.
heard of, but. Oh yeah, that's not the one I have.
It had a couple good ones. Like, if I remember correctly, it had like Rope, Vertigo, The Birds. But I remember it was like a black case, and you know how they had those really, really thin DVD cases back in the day.
Yeah. So
it was like
that's
14
cool.
of those, like 2-sided.
Yeah, and he did. This is like his first movie. I don't know if it was his first big hit though in the States, but yeah, there was a whole British Hitchcock like collection on Criterion for a while, and it was like a bunch of movies I didn't hear of, and the Foreign Correspondent is the only one I think that I watched of his before 1940 era, before he came to the States. All right, well, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Number 2. Yeah. The Phantom of the Opera, 1925,
Kevin's Dripping
directed by
Pearls.
Rupert Julian. This movie was a first-time watch for me of any of the Phantom of the Operas. I think I may have seen like parts of Andrew Lloyd Webber's in music class or something, but it takes a little bit getting into, and also, as Chris was just saying about watching some lesser quality films now, but it was for 1925. It was pretty good. The catacombs were super impressive. The opera house, not even just like the scary makeup design, and I don't know. It was pretty cool. It does have kidnapping, terror, violence, torture chambers, lynch mob, the works for Gothic horror, and there was just so much kind of like inspiration to movies I actually probably would prefer to watch, like from Frankenstein to Interview with the Vampire, and it's cool to kind of see that movie first. The whole last hour is pretty incredible, but yeah, it is has a slow burn to it, and it being a silent film. And honestly, I thought the music was going to be a little bit cooler, but yeah, I don't know. It was excited. I was excited to watch this movie. I didn't get to watch the other one that I was going to use for my number 2, but you guys seen this one?
I actually have. Yeah, it's a good, like, part of my issue with the Phantom is the fact that, like, my family was so into the musical when I was growing up that, you know, it's almost become synonymous with the whole idea. Kind of like Les Mis, you know, like the story's been out there for hundreds of years before, but it's so tied to my memories of growing up with it that it's hard to separate. But it's a good version. It's again, it hits the Gothic heights rather than like the gore that like the Robert Englund version in the 80s did. Like the fact that he manipulated his face to keep it like that while he was filming is like just one of the examples of why Lon Chaney was one of the best, like not just actors but physical actors back in that early period of Hollywood.
I haven't seen it. I've never actually seen any take of Phantom of the Opera. Not even Robert Englund, which I know seems weird, but I just never have.
Have you seen you've seen all of them?
The only one that I own is the musical version, the one with Gerard. But I've seen this one. I've seen Robert Englund. I've seen that one.
How is the Robert Englund one?
To be honest,
I feel like I've tried watching it as a kid.
Not very good. At least I don't remember it being very. It was like one of those 80 movies that relied on just the horror and the gore, rather than, like this is it's a tragic story which factors into the Gothic, nature of the original story, and that one was not very tragic.
It just tried to like make it an actual horror movie.
Yeah,
for,
basically
like, the 80s,
basically
right?
The makeup,
early 90s. Yeah.
The
So
makeup
you have
was
the Joel
pretty impressive,
Schumacher
if
one,
I remember
then.
correctly.
Yeah, I remember the cover. I remember I was like looking up the different Phantom of the Operas, and I was like, Robert Englund. Oh, wow, yeah, I remember that cover. But I was always like, I don't want to watch a musical, especially when I watch a horror movie. So, but now I want to kind of check them all out. But so you have the Joel Schumacher one? Is that the one with Gerard Butler?
The Joel Schumacher one. I mean, it's not even really a horror because it's a musical. Yeah, I mean, I can't probably really label it as horror adjacent even.
Really?
I mean, maybe if I don't know, you were younger, or I don't find it scary. So, make of that what you will.
It's all Andrew
Exactly.
Lloyd Webbered up. Okay. So, my number one, The Beguiled, 2017, directed by Sofia Coppola and also written for the screen by her. It's a remake. I don't know if it might be based on a story, but there was a movie in the 70s starring Clint Eastwood that I have not seen. So, and this is considered Southern Gothic horror, though it would probably be more accurately psychological thriller. It has a grim fairy tale feel, except Prince Charming is a runaway injured soldier, a Yank in Virginia during the Civil War, and is found by a girl that lives at this all-girl boarding school that is currently deserted because of the Civil War, the men and the slaves, with a great cast with Nicole Kidman, Kirsten Stewart, Ellie Fanning, and Colin Farrell as the soldier.
Kirsten Dunst.
This movie has
Not Stewart.
Kirsten Dunst. Yeah, I actually wrote that down too. It is Kirsten Dunst. Thank you. And yeah, it has the slow burn, sexual tension, jealousy, revenge. Beautifully shot on 35 millimeter. I love Sofia Coppola. She's one of my favorite directors of all time, and this is probably like on my top 3 of her movies. So maybe even the second. But yeah. Do you guys know this one, or you just know that I'm wrong?
I
Kirsten
remember
Stewart?
seeing the trailer for it and reading reviews of it, but I never actually saw it when it came out.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Currently on Netflix. It is pretty cool. It is slow burn. You got to wait to the ending, and that's kind of where it has that like flair of gothic horror. But it's a really good thriller on its own. But yeah, this is my top top five notable gothic slash fairy tale horror.
Sweet. All right. Kent, you ready for me to go?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so...
Try not to take up too many of my picks, Chris. Try.
I'm going to throw out a couple, like, really popular ones that I'm going to kind of skim over because I want to hit some less well-known ones. But I think probably the best example we have... Well, I'd say these three pretty much tie for, I would say, the best example of gothic horror, but I love Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. In my opinion, it's probably still the premier version of that story. I love Tim Burton's version of Sleepy Hollow. That's probably going a little heavier on the humor than the straight horror, but I still think it's a great version. And I love Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth. I think those, like when we said gothic horror, those are the first three that popped into my head, just like that. But due to their popularity, they've all been talked, like some of them we've talked over and over ad nauseum over the years. So I'm not going to go too far in depth on them. I'm pretty sure both of you have seen them, correct?
Well,
I haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth.
me neither. I own it.
Are you,
Never
are
seen
you
it.
kidding me? You're shitting me.
But you,
No?
I haven't really gotten into a lot of Guillermo del Toro until recently, and it's one that is not on the streamers, and I hear nothing but good things. And you kind of sold me on it, Chris, putting it in the same breath of Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I didn't put on the list, probably just feeling those reasons that you just said. And what was the other one?
Sleepy Hollow.
And Sleepy Hollow, yeah, that was another one too. But
they're all gothic. They're all slightly different versions of. I mean, like Pan's Labyrinth, for example, takes place during World War II in fascist Italy, but like they all do a great example of showing how broadly the genre can be defined.
I just watched Sleepy Hollow yesterday, and what I learned from watching it for like the second or third time was that I felt like Tim Burton basically was like, Christopher Walken, you're my next Batman, and we're going to mimic a lot of the music to sound like fucking Batman, and we're going to add a little comedy here and there, and we're going to have a movie. And I can't say that was the wrong choice, but I never picked up on the closeness of the music between that and fucking Batman till yesterday. Just throwing that out.
It was Danny Elfman,
yeah.
I
like
get it, but you know what? You don't have to make it fucking Batman Part 3. Just saying. If you're the great Danny fucking Elfman, pick your shit up. Come on. Make some fucking music that sounds like the period.
The one thing I want to bring up about Sleepy Hollow is the fact that it's a good movie and Casper Van Dien is in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He doesn't drag it down.
I'm like, well, now I can add 2 movies that I know Casper Van Dien from that I like. And I don't know if there's a third movie out there, but maybe.
So Starship Troopers is the other one?
Yes.
Right?
I feel that goes without saying, but yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure. Oh, I want to make sure that there wasn't a third movie out there that's actually pretty good. I don't remember that he was in this, and this movie is really good. I saw it in the theater. I wasn't impressed with it. I saw it a couple other times. Well, I saw it during, probably for the 4th time during Halloween time, and I actually had an appreciation for it that I never had before, probably because of all the blood, and it just didn't stop, and it was just, and it was almost to the point where it just actually got funny. So
I was expecting something along the lines of like Disney's, 30-minute animated short, and I really enjoyed what we got. Like people forget, I think, this role in Johnny Depp's, and the cast is great.
Jeffrey Jones?
Yeah. I mean,
Hey, it was okay to like him back then.
I guess is it going to be okay to like Kevin Spacey going forward? I don't know how that's working out.
Is Jeffrey
I
Jones
don't care. I
on?
still love Seven and Usual Suspects, man.
Yeah, wait, is Jeffrey Jones canceled?
Oh, well, it would be less canceled and more like actually not arrested for
Really?
convicted. I mean, that was one of the reasons why the Deadwood show ended.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was back in then. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was convicted of underage sexual assault kind of stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Anyways, yeah. I mean, I can enjoy the movie while, not enjoying the actors' real life shenanigans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that one. Again, Bram Stoker's another great cast. I mean, Keanu is probably the weakest part of it, but Gary Oldman fucking rocks the shit out of it. I mean, that was the first thing I remember ever seeing Gary Oldman in, and Jesus, what a performance.
I don't like that movie.
What?
And just like that,
I don't give a fuck, man. Like, I think that movie is preposterously silly. Like, I don't. I want to like it. I want to like it. I mean, it came out in 92. If anybody here is going to make an effort to like a movie from 92, it's going to be me. I think that's a fair thing to say. I even bought the Super NES game for $20 from Ames, okay? Oh. There's a lot of things I really tried to like about this, and I like, like other renditions of Dracula. I don't like this damn movie.
I watched it again, I get probably around like October time, and I was blown away by like the production design, all of it. I also like Keanu Reeves in it. I think it's just like at the time when I saw it, it was like Point Break, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Parenthood. This is all I knew from him, and all of those things were awesome. And then he was playing not that kind of character, but it was a horror film. And then, my dad wouldn't let me watch it when the vampire chicks were having an orgy with him. And, so I only got to see the movie in parts. He'd let me watch a little more of it. And then it'd be like a werewolf raping a woman. And he's like, I might have to check this out first. So
I didn't realize that was Monica Bellucci was one of the brides either back in the day.
So I had so much fun with it, but it's not, I guess if you're like thinking it was going to be like his Godfather-esque, but it is. I mean, those production, just everything about that movie is great. It's, the acting is just actors of that time. But yeah, that was one of the movies and then The Professional and then True Romance in '93. So in that time, I saw those three movies about Gary Oldman, and I was like, just like those, just completely wildly different characters, and especially True Romance.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I saw True Romance later on. You showed it to me, and Gary Oldman's part is one of my favorites.
You get cast for that.
Like I've ever seen. Like I still think about that scene.
I will say this: Tom Waits in the movie as Renfield. I love me some Tom Waits music, and I like him as an actor in small doses, which I don't know if he's ever really starred in much. He's a great side character, though. Really,
he played the devil in what was it, the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus? The last one that
Heath Ledger, the Terry Gilliam film, where Johnny Depp and Jude Law and Colin Farrell. Yeah,
Colin Farrell finished it for him.
Yeah, he was also in Seven Psychopaths with Colin and Walken and others.
God, we're doing like 6 degrees of separation with all the actors tonight, between... Anyways. So yeah, I really like that one too. And Pan's Labyrinth, I would highly, highly recommend both of you guys to watch it if you get a chance.
I think you convinced me to buy it.
It's yeah, it's a very, very striking movie too. The yeah, it's.
I've seen just watch one scene just fucking watch it. Monster, which I liked.
Pale Man.
I really enjoyed it, and I own it. Just haven't seen it.
Okay, so those were the ones I'm not really going to go into.
Are these not your top 5?
No, those were not my top 5.
Chris, you're ruining my list.
They would have been my top 5, but I wanted to kind of skip them. So I'm going to bring up a few that kind of I saw on lists, but I don't really feel fit. Although after Kevin's list, I might have. But so I saw somebody list Repo the Genetic Opera. If we haven't spoiled it for you guys yet, we are going to be doing musicals in December, and this is definitely going to be on my list for that. I can understand some of the choices over how it's filmed, but I don't really feel it really hits Gothic as a genre. But anytime I get to talk about this movie, I love the soundtrack, I love the movie, I love the actors. I'll bring it up. 2 that I think actually probably work on a more modern take of Gothic.
Wait, Chris?
Yes?
I'm just going to stop you here for a moment.
Go ahead.
Is there any chance you're listing anything that I'm going to do? Because we kind of agreed to just do honorable mentions afterward.
Okay. Sure.
I mean, just toss it out there in case you're throwing out anything, any big hitters. If you're not throwing out any big hitters, by all means, go crazy.
I don't think these 2 are big hitters.
Okay.
In all of the years that we've been doing this, I don't think we brought up either one of these.
Okay.
But I think they both hit on a more modern Gothic feel. But one of them would be The Eyes of My Mother, and the other would be The Skeleton Key. Eyes of My Mother was done in 2016, and it was one of those ones that, initially, it's more along the lines of the slow burn, the Build of Dread, but I definitely think this one maybe slightly crosses the lines because it does get into some body horror. But I think it's a pretty decent movie. And Skeleton Key, I think, is one of those ones that works more along the lines of hitting the Southern Gothic, like Kevin brought up. And I think it does I don't know if it ever really gets scary, but it does a good job with the suspension, the tension. And it's got one of what I would consider hallmarks of the genre in that it's kind of got the trick ending going for it. So those would be kind of my honorable mentions, or too popular to kind of talk about. So now for my list, Kent. So number 5 is on more of the fairy tale end, but
No.
Have you guys ever seen a movie called The Hallow from 2015? Irish film?
It was on Netflix at one point, right?
I believe so.
I think I may have watched it at one point, but I don't really remember a damn thing.
All right, so the premise is the family moves into a remote Irish village where the husband is working for a logging company, and he's basically surveying the woods, the trees for where they need to, which ones to take and which ones to avoid in order to avoid, deforestation. And, all of the the locals are standoffish and clannish. Nobody likes him. Nobody wants to talk to him. They're like against the forestation. But they like the house they move into has like iron bars over all the windows and the doors. And anyways, long story short, it gets into like literal like fairies, changelings, that kind of stuff. It's worth watching, I think. Gets into why the line "Hallowed be thy name" is actually within the Our Father. And I like the twist. The creature effects were actually pretty well done too. It's also got the guy who played Roose Bolton from Game of Thrones in it, and one of the guys I've seen in like some of the Black Mirror episodes. Yeah, it kind of. I don't think it was a big hit, but like I know that it was one of the highest grossing Irish exports that they've had in the last couple of years.
What year did this come out? 2015?
2015, yeah.
Okay. What's Roose Bolton's real name?
Michael McElhatton. Probably butchered the pronunciation.
That's all right. Well, was it because there's like a 2015 and a 2016 one? So I've been trying to figure out which one we were going with, because there's a 2015 one that's a TV movie, and yeah, I don't know. I may have actually seen both of these. The more I'm like looking at pictures, so good stuff, actually.
All right, Kevin, you said you haven't seen this either?
No, and I also couldn't find it on there. I saw the 2016 one with William Sadler, and then is it directed by Sheldon Wilson?
This one is directed by Corin Hardy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's spelled HALLOW.
Yeah, I was looking up HOLL.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on, I will go to my number 4, which was a werewolf movie that came out in 2021, and it's called The Cursed. Did you guys see this? Boyd Holbrook, Kelly Riley?
You said The Cursed?
Yeah.
Vampire? Werewolf?
Yes.
Bought it, went to watch it, got sidetracked. Really pissed off because that looked good, so I'm happy it's on your list.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I haven't seen it, but I was. It looked good. It was on during the research phase of lists, and it looked good. I should look it up now.
It was on Hulu, but I think they took it off of Hulu.
The creature is really weird. It wasn't like your typical werewolf. But, like, the atmosphere nails Gothic for me. It was like almost one of those movies that's like dripping with the atmosphere. And I think I found it funny that I'm watching the Justified remake with Boyd Holbrook as the bad guy after watching this with Boyd Holbrook as the good guy.
I love the poster for this. I think that caught my attention long before anything else, but if I'm not mistaken, it had decent reviews.
Yeah. I don't think it did well in the box office, but like everybody I know who saw it liked it.
That makes sense. Yeah, this is kind of an October movie for me for this year, so I'm happy that there's somebody that likes it, so it gives me hope.
Awesome.
It is on Hulu, and and 2021, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's showing up as on Hulu. And I remember like looking up. I thought that they took it off, but maybe they took it off a different streaming and put it on Hulu. Either way, it was on. Like I saw it was on something. I was like, oh, it's leaving this, and then I went to Vudu and it was like, oh, it's on sale for $5. I'm just going to snag it now while it's $5. So,
All right. So my number 3 is a more modern Gothic take, but it's got the isolation. It's got the slow burn. It's I don't know if I would necessarily call it a horror movie, but it's a movie called Byzantium from 2012. It was directed by Neil Jordan. It stars Saoirse Ronan and Gemma Arterton. Basically, they are like 200-ish-year-old mother-daughter vampires who move from town to town based upon when they get discovered for one of the killings that they do. And again, it's the atmosphere that really nails it. Like even they can go out in the sun, and even the times when they're out during the day, the sun, the sunlight is like that muted shade that they do in movies where they're trying to put that filter on the shots. I really enjoyed it, and I had never heard about it before I watched it. That was back when I was going on my maybe say pirating binge for a while there. It also has got Johnny Lee Miller. It's got one of the kids from the X-Men reboots, the First Class grouping. But yeah, it's actually got a couple of twists in it that I don't want to spoil that actually work really well. So this is another one I would recommend seeing if you guys get a chance to watch. If you haven't seen it,
I actually have seen this before. It's been a while. I saw it probably, so it's 2012. So I saw it probably probably around 2013, 2014, on the Showtime Women channel. Yeah, because
Interesting.
I was like, "Why are you watching?" My girlfriend at the time was like, "Why are you watching the Showtime Women?" I was like, "It's a Neil Jordan vampire movie. I like so I'm in." Uh, so yeah, I remember liking it. I'm looking through the cast. I'm like, is Stephen Ray in it? Because he's usually a staple, and he's not in this.
Yeah, I found it fun. I didn't realize, when I watched it, I didn't realize it was a Neil Jordan movie initially, but after seeing it, I could, definitely recognize his isms within it.
Yeah. I am a fan of Neil Jordan's. Not a giant fan, but I am a fan. So, what about you, Kent? I'm excited. I've seen one of these.
no, I haven't. I mean, let's face it. I haven't seen. At best, I've seen The Hollow out of everybody's list so far. So I'm in my typical position of being ignorant of everybody else's selections. Feeling good.
Well, okay.
Hey, I'm happy because it always gives me something to watch. Like, that was not a complaint. That was me actually being like, good. I write these things down, I take notes, and then I watch stuff. So it's good.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so moving on then. This one I would imagine you both have probably seen, but I think again it really hits the atmosphere more than anything. The Woman in Black from 2012, starring Daniel Radcliffe. it was nowhere near anywhere as scary as people talk it up to be, or as the advertising would make you believe. But it absolutely nailed, the isolation, the weather, as Kevin brought up earlier, the period, and part of it is it has one of my favorite tropes for Gothic horror, in that it's got a shitty ending, or at least an ending that's not happy and doesn't resolve well. One of the things I like, I remember for a while there was a period of time where like every ghost movie that was coming out was find out why the person is haunting and fix whatever their issue was to lay it to rest. And Daniel Radcliffe attempts to do that within this movie, and long story short, it doesn't happen. Well, it doesn't work, and he and his child both die at the end of the movie, and that stuck with me over a movie that probably wouldn't have if it had ended on a positive note.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. For a PG-13 movie, that's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Question, because this has come up before. A lot of people in the UK have a huge hard-on for the original, which was a TV movie. I think it was 89, if I'm not mistaken. Have either of you seen that one?
No.
I haven't. I did see the sequel to this one, and that movie was shit, so don't bother watching the second one.
I mean, I really only watch Radcliffe when he's in, The Miracle Workers. I really like him in that.
I like the, he's done a couple bad guy turns lately. He did it in, Now You See Me Too, and, what was the one with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum?
Yeah.
The Lost City. Yeah. I also really liked him in Guns Akimbo.
I haven't seen it.
Which I don't think a lot of people saw. But, yeah, this was one of the first things I think he did after Harry Potter was over. And I was impressed that he was able to actually convey a widower and a father, for his relatively young age.
I'll ask you this fun question. Who turned out better, Radcliffe in this movie or Elijah Wood in Maniac?
It's night and day. I mean, one is a gothic horror where the dude is a doomed protagonist, and the other is kind of like a first-person slasher where the guy is the bad guy. I mean, for two twinsies, I think they've both had an interesting career trajectory.
Yeah, I think they're actually a pretty fun, comparison in some odd, weird way, I think. Both turned out far more enjoyable than I thought they would.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Daniel Radcliffe, I saw him in probably around this time, Kill Your Darlings, where he plays Allen Ginsberg. And that was definitely different. It was, he's definitely going away from Harry Potter, and I see him as doing absolutely anything that is not Harry Potter. Much like Robert Pattinson, who is kind of going for the far.
I'm no longer Edward.
Yeah. yeah. I'm no longer Edward. Yeah, so I'm no longer Harry Potter, and Elijah Wood, he's Frodo, right? That's
no longer.
Right. Can we all agree that Daniel Radcliffe's greatest performer was as Weird Al Yankovic?
That was actually a really good movie. Yeah,
that movie was
fucking loved it.
Yeah, and I really like Swiss Army Man by the Daniel
I really like that too. That movie
on the other spectrum. Yeah,
that movie set me up to, as soon as Everything Everywhere All at Once was announced, I was like, I love Swiss Army Man so much that I'm gonna just watch, and that vindicated my choice. All right, so my number one. This is probably the goriest one on my list, but Black Death from 2010 with Eddie Redmayne, Sean Bean, Carice Van Houten, David Warner, a lot of other smaller named, like British actors, Scottish actors that you'd recognize as soon as you saw them. Have either of you guys seen this one?
No, but I wanted to for a long time. I didn't realize Carice Van Houten is in it, and I think she is awesome. She's in Paul Verhoeven's The Black Book, and then also, of course, the woman in red in Game of Thrones. Alumni with Sean Bean.
She was in another one with what was his name? Clive Owen, Intruders too. I don't know if you ever saw that.
No.
Yeah, Intruders. That was good.
So this is a tale set in the Middle Ages during the Black Plague, and it's another. It's very nihilistic. Like nobody gets a happy ending in this fucking movie, which I kind of like. The gore might be significantly more than I would typically recommend within a Gothic horror. But the performances are strong. It was, and especially for the budget that it was done in, you can tell they got their money's worth. This is another one I would recommend seeing if you've never seen it. I would definitely say don't have people who are squeamish watch it though.
Yeah.
Oh, you sold me on this, and I've wanted to see it anyways, but now it sounds like it's everything I kind of hoped it would be.
Yeah, it gets into like religion, witchcraft, conspiracies. Yeah, not the good part of religion, but the dark part of religion from the Middle Ages. And I won't try to spoil it for you, but it definitely lives up to the typical Sean Bean memes. So,
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think I branded this from. There was like a period of my life for like probably like a year or two where I rented from Redbox a ton. Back when that was like a fun new thing, and this was one of them that I rented, and I don't remember a whole lot. I do remember Sean Bean living up to expectations, we'll say.
all right. So that's my list. I got one more I will talk about after Kent finishes his that I watched today, and I don't know if I would have made it my list, but it was interesting enough to discuss it. So, Kent, fire away, bud.
Okay. So I have like my honorable mentions list, which we'll get to later. Which I'm just going to drop a hint: Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is on there because somehow that made it onto a list, which shocked me. More on that later. All right, number 5 in a movie that Suspiria. I'm talking about the original one because yesterday I watched the 2018 one, and today I watched the original. I've seen the original numerous times. I'd never seen the remake, and I was always off-put by the 2.5 hour runtime. And here's the verdict. If you could somehow take the artistic merit, the lighting and colors and music from the first one, combine it with the overall story of the second one while cutting back, there was like this weird like side storyline that I'm sure people that are like knee deep into nerddom of like evaluating every last aspect of a movie may be into it, but like there was some shit like with hostage situations. You could have easily eliminated it and made that a 2-hour movie. It would have been like perfect, but they shot their load too much. They tried getting too fucking artsy, and probably like by like the hour and 45-minute mark, you suddenly kind of find yourself like, I've invested an hour and 45 minutes of my life into this. I'm not going to stop now, but I kind of want to. And It ended okay, though. But we're here to talk about the original. How is it Gothic horror? I don't know. Old building, witchcraft, whatever. I don't know. To me, it doesn't even fit Gothic horror, but, it was on some lists, so I'm going to include it because I really just like the music. The acting's not nearly as great. The acting's really good in the remake, too. I gotta say that. My mind was blown this morning. I was looking it up again, reading. And Tilda Swinton played 3 characters in the remake, including a male character, and I had no idea it was her. I thought it was a dude the whole time. So, bravo to her for killing it. But the reboot had Mia Goth, too, one of her early roles, and she's awesome. The first movie didn't have, a lot of, everyday names. It was an Argento flick. There's some stuff that, the blood, have you guys seen Suspiria before I give away too much here?
Yeah, we did a podcast on it last year.
I remembered that, kind of. Kevin?
I have not, and I have not seen either, and I want to. Dario Argento is someone that I have not really watched any of his movies. I saw one, I can't even think of what it is right now, but I don't know how well I was paying attention to it. Well, so you know how shitty the blood looked in Dawn of the Dead, the first one? The blood looks equally shitty in Suspiria. I know it was kind of the artistic style of choice, but it looks like shit. But the lighting and stuff makes up for it. It's a lot of fun. There's some really quirky things towards the end of it. I don't know, Kevin. It's on Tubi, so it is free on Tubi. It's one of those movies that you can't buy digitally. I feel like that and American Werewolf in London are 2 of the top movies I want to own but can't find to own digitally, which sucks. One other thought. If for some reason either of you put yourself through watching the reboot of Suspiria, after the Olga scene, you'll be tempted to want to continue. Just know that scene at 25, 30 minutes in is the high point and one of the greatest horror scenes of all time. Yes, I'm putting my name on that. One of the greatest horror scenes of all time. And Chris, I know you'll like it because you like Malignant.
I haven't seen the remake, so yeah. Everybody who I know who's seen it says it was good.
Yeah, you had me at too artsy for its own good. It's
I just think they could both really, if you carve out 4 hours of your day to watch both of these, I don't think you'll be mad because they both tell the same story but very differently. And then the reboot is on Amazon Prime. I think it's just going to be stuck on there because I think it was produced by Amazon.
Yeah,
so
I
think that's got a permanent spot.
I think it's a fixture. And it's the guy who did Call Me By Your Name, and most recently Bones and All, which I have not seen. But
cool. Shit, isn't he doing the new Exorcist one that's coming out?
No, isn't that Gordon Green? He's doing something though.
Yes. Yes, you're right.
Also, in the reboot, Chloe Grace Moretz on IMDb gets this top billing, so I'm thinking that she's going to have a big role. But anybody that knows the original knows that Patricia, a.k.a. Patricia Hinkle, a.k.a. Pat Hinkle, who reminds me of Pat Hingle, I think is his name, from Maximum Overdrive, so I just want to throw out Maximum Overdrive, quite frankly. She doesn't have a very big role. Dakota Johnson's the main star of this, but Mia Goth is really, really, really fucking good in this, too. Lots of nudity in the reboot. Just for anybody that cares about that thing. Both male and female, though, so fun for the whole family, I guess. With that being said, I'm going to go with number 4. and I was I kind of thought you would have this on your list, Chris, and you didn't. The Changeling from, I don't know, 1979 maybe. I feel like
that's one with George C. Scott, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, no, it's not as good of an opening scene as Scream, but I don't know. You'd be hard pressed to find me 10 better opening horror scenes than the opening scene in Changeling, where it's snowing out, their car gets stuck, and he goes to a telephone booth to call for a tow truck, and then he just watches as, like, there's snow on the road, and basically a car's coming one way, and a big-ass truck's coming the other way, and the big-ass truck plows the car into his wife and daughter. It's a great opening scene. So, and George C. Scott, I don't know. I'm a huge fan of, like, just watching him do his thing, so always a treat. I don't know if it's scary, though. Some people claim it's scary, and I don't know. For those of you that have seen it, do you consider it scary at all?
At this point, it's hard to talk about scary stuff from stuff that was filmed back then. I mean, I find, like, it's I don't know. A lot of the movies that were filmed in the 80s, I feel, have a particular look to them that doesn't necessarily even lend themselves to being scary. I did like The Changeling a lot, though. But yeah, I didn't even think about it to put it on my list. There were a couple that I was just thinking about after my list finished that I was like, oh, I can't believe I forgot them. But yeah, this one didn't make my list. But I do like the movie.
Kevin, you've seen it or no?
Yeah, actually, I saw it. This was on my five that I've never seen before. So I've seen this recently. Yeah, it's not that it's scary, but I get why people would say it's scary, because when I was watching it and, like, the way that it was shot, especially like the chandelier, and maybe that kind of, like, contributed to the atmosphere of it. It it wasn't terrifying, but it had, like, kind of a creepy feel to it, especially the way that the cinematography of it. So, uh, and yeah, it's considered a horror. It's got the whole supernatural thing. So I guess that's probably the haunted. It's a mansion, right?
Yeah, it's a big ass mansion.
Yeah. I forgot about that opening scene too, but yeah, it is. 'Cause I was like, what was the opening scene? And it's like, oh yeah, his whole family.
Like, right in front of him. Like, that's a pretty hardcore, badass opening scene.
Yeah. Burden male protagonist, George C. Scott, hits it on the head.
It really, I think aside from the opening, I don't know why, but, like, the faucets turning on, like, by themselves, probably like 30 minutes in or whenever, I really like that. I know everybody kind of goes back to, like, the ball rolling down the stairs, and I get it, but I don't know, something about the faucets, I think I enjoyed that more than that, like, the ball or the wheelchair stuff. But all in all, I'm sure, like, back in 1980 when this came out, this was at the very least chilling, if not scary. It just, 40 some years later, it just doesn't have that scary factor, but it definitely still has that alone, haunted feeling, which apparently is part of the Gothic thing, so that's why it's on my list. Number 3. I kind of had a toss-up between 2 and 3, but I'm going to go with another Guillermo del Toro movie, since we brought him up earlier, and going with The Orphanage, because that movie, once again, I don't think is scary. I've watched it 4 or 5 times at least now. I just watched it again earlier today, and I know, like, some people find the one scene when the mom's playing the game towards the very end to be a little scary, I guess. I don't know. I guess I should ask before I delve into this. Have you guys both seen The Orphanage?
No, I have not.
No. Did he produce it or something? The Guillermo del Toro, the Overbridge?
He, oh yeah. My bad. I think he produced. He had something to do with it.
Yeah, they probably threw his
Executive
name all
producer.
over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were going to do an American reboot, and my man Larry Fessenden wrote the script, and then it never happened. So that bums me out. But this does check a lot of the Guillermo del Toro check marks. And I won't give away the game, although like the way they did it was good. It's just I don't know. I've seen it on a lot of lists. I watch a lot of stupid shit on YouTube, and so it shows up on a lot of lists. And I don't even think like the first time I saw it would I've even thought like, ooh, that's chilling in any way. But the story is really good, and I don't want to say it's a happy ending, but I think it kind of is a happy ending in its own weird way. Not happy for everybody, probably not happy for most people, but for me, I found it to be a happier ending compared to most of the shit that we talk about. Let's go with that route. It's not anywhere to be streaming, so I wish I could tell you to go watch it someplace, but apparently you can't. I don't know. I bought it on Vudu.
You can rent it on streaming, but yeah, there's not a subscription spot.
Yeah, the mom is really good. I don't know how you pronounce her first name. Beline, maybe? Or I don't think it's Bellin, so I'm going with Beline Ruda. She was really freaking good in this. I mean, she basically carried the whole damn movie, quite frankly. And this is something I wanted to touch on, but I can touch on the next one because it'll go harken back to something else I wanted to talk about. But once again, this is another kind of haunted type movie. Most of my movies, I just kind of like going with haunted, so I could have really just made my list of one thing about witches and the rest are about hauntings. Because once again, I still don't know what the hell Gothic horror is anymore. So I kind of just went down this whole haunted rabbit hole, and I'm happy with it because I like all the movies I saw. But yeah, highly recommend it. If as long as you don't mind subtitles, which I don't think any of us mind at this point. And I was thinking about this earlier. In your opinions, does a jump scare work better in a subtitled film, or does it work worse because you're so focused on the bottom part of the screen?
Worse, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw anything with jump scares in like a recent kind of film with subtitles. So I don't know. I can't think of anything of an example. So
I think it does work worse, but every once in a while you're so focused on just looking at that little, like 1/20th of your screen that you're focused on, and then something jumps up. Sometimes it can really work beneficially, but by and large it doesn't work so well. All right. My number 2, which is a movie incredibly similar, and the movie I watched just before we started this podcast, was The Others with Nicole Kidman, 2001. I don't know, Nicole Kidman made one of your list for something, I think, at one
number
point or
one, The
another.
Beguiled, Head Mistress.
Yeah. She could have probably gotten an award for her performance in The Others. It's one of those movies that has a twist, but the story and twist is so well done that you don't get sick of it. Like, as we talked about, I think, a podcast or two ago, watching The Sixth Sense now, it's just, whatever. But, you can go back and watch something that has a good twist, but the story was so well done that you still don't mind going back and rewatching the movie because it's just a great movie. The Usual Suspects comes to mind, for example. I'm guessing both of you have seen The others, maybe not.
I was going to guess that this was going to be your number one.
No, nobody's going to guess my number one. That's okay, though.
Oh, this is your number two?
Yeah.
Well, I knew this was going to make your list.
I've loved this movie ever since I first saw it. I adore the little girl that played Anne. She is so good in it. And something I wanted to bring up was the scene where they have the psychics. There's also the same. It's basically a copy in some ways of the scene in The Changeling, because they have the psychic with the eyes all glossed over, and she has this big notepad. She's writing down words or whatever at a frantic pace. And I don't know any other movies. There has to be other movies. I don't watch a ton of things with that type of psychic or whatever, but it was like kind of uncanny how similar those two scenes were between the two movies. So I had a lot of fun with this. And I would say the one thing I wish they would have done a little differently, I kind of wish they would have had a different person for Nicole Kidman's husband. That'd be the only thing I would have changed. He wasn't bad in his role. It wasn't even a huge role. It just, I felt like there should have been something more. But that's okay. And this is the type of movie that kind of harkens back to like old school Twilight Zone stuff. So for me, I felt very much at home. And I like comfort. This is like comfort food for horror movies for me, as far as I'm concerned. And my number one, Kevin probably knows what my number one is, because I definitely said to him at some point or another, somehow I'm going to find a way to put this on the list. It is.
Scooby-Doo?
No. It's Session 9.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if we're going to say, if we're going to go back and like look at the attributes of a Gothic horror, there's a lot of things going on between the architecture, people being alone, hauntings. There's a lot of stuff going on here that kind of fit that description in an awkward way. I don't know if I'm right in remotely stating that this could be even Gothic horror adjacent, but if I'm just abiding by what I read online and I'm checking off boxes, Session 9 checks off a ton of boxes. So I don't really get to say Session 9 is my number one movie for any of our podcasts. And I felt great watching it yesterday. I got happy seeing Larry Fessenden for like 2 to 3 minutes. I got super pumped when I got to see David Caruso go, "Hey, fuck you," like to the point where I rewound it a couple times. Like, all of these things work for me. Session 9, like, despite all of its flaws, and there are flaws, it's still just a really, really enjoyable, comfortable movie for me. And I don't know. I'm guessing probably both of you would say it does not belong on this list. I don't know, but once again, if I'm just writing down, like, going down the rules of what supposedly makes a Gothic horror, this really did check off a lot of the criteria.
You can't get a better birded male protagonist than David Caruso.
It's
So good.
I mean, besides George C. Scott. George C. Scott, David Caruso.
Father and son.
Close second. And I would say of the flaws of this movie that David Caruso is actually
he's a
not
shining
one of them.
beacon of hope in this movie. Like, he's really good compared to damn near anything else he's ever been in. He's good at this.
Actually be my favorite performance of his. Besides the cop that gets stabbed in the ass in
Yes.
First Blood.
Yeah. This movie just it really does make me happy. And yeah, are we ever led to believe that the main dude, whose name I can't even think of at the moment, not Caruso,
Was it Will Patton?
Gordon. Were we led to believe that Gordon spent any time in that asylum, or was he just going crazy while the whole movie's also, like, Mike's doing all the research about the multiple personality stuff?
I think it was. I always got the impression that it was just like a possession, rather than that he was an actual inmate or not inmate. You know what I mean?
Patient
back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds familiar.
It was kind of, I don't know, I like how they painted it. Like, for such a, I mean, this, I don't know what the budget was, but it clearly was not a high budget movie. And also, if and when you, what was that?
0.5.
I don't know. Like, if you go back and watch it, oh, okay.
2 million, sorry.
If you go back and watch it, and then you think, like, Gordon said that they could clean that whole freaking thing in a week, and then they showed the outdoor shots of how huge and sprawling this building is. I don't think you could have 20 hard-working guys doing, like, 16 hours a day and clean out that whole building. That's a huge building.
Oh, yeah,
I
for sure.
Say that,
for sure.
Like, patently absurd that... but whatever. I mean, minor quip. But, yes. So, that's my list.
Good list. I mean, I don't know if it would have hit mine, but anytime people want to talk Obsession 9, I'll always talk it up.
It's just like one of those unheralded movies that I think over time horror fans have heard about enough that a lot of horror fans have gone and watched off of other recommendations from people. I think it's kind of like almost like a word of mouth type movie.
Yeah, I worked at the video store and this was a movie that the manager at Video World in Johnstown, one of the many I had in the 2 years I worked there, suggested this movie, and I eventually saw it down because everyone kept talking about it. I heard probably 4 or 5 times. My dad said it was really good. I think he burned me a copy of it way back in the day and sent it to me in St. Louis, and it was it lives up to all of that. Like, it's actually scary, but it's like more creepy than scary, but there wasn't a lot going on in the late 90s.
Right. Yeah, the funny thing is I first rented it from Video World in Gloversville. So, 2001 is when it came out. So
2000. Oh, yeah, that's when I worked there.
Yeah. And another thing that makes me laugh is as Gordon, in the reveal that it's Gordon that's going around killing people, like, when he goes after his nephew who has the mullet, I'm sitting there thinking, like, how does the nephew know to look in the door of the vehicle for Oreos? And then secondly, when have you ever seen Oreos in a box? These are questions that will haunt me till my dying day. They're super important.
Yes.
I need to rewatch this. Hopefully it's on something this Halloween.
It feels like one of those movies that should just be on, Pluto TV or Tubi at all times for free with ads. But, oh well. All right. We good to hit up some honorable mentions?
Yeah, let's do this. Hit them up.
Yeah.
Who wants to go?
Well, you did cross off The Changeling. That was one of the 5 that I saw. I'm going to bring up first The Hunger by Tony Scott. I think it was 81 or 82 that it came out. And this came up, but I think it was for like Gothic, as in Bauhaus, what you would think of like Marilyn Manson influences music of that time. So I think it comes up that way. It does have a weird feel to it. Have you guys seen The Hunger?
It had one of the sexiest scenes I had ever seen as a young child in anything.
Catherine Deneuve and Susan Sarandon, yeah. Yeah, so and Tony Scott's one of my favorites. His first film. Uh, so I wanted to bring that one up. It was going to be my number two, but I ended up not not getting to check it out. Another one was Red Riding Hood by Catherine Hardwicke, and this was, I think, like her follow up to Twilight, and it is terrible reviews. Gary Oldman's in it. He's pretty good in it, but uh, it was okay. I bought it for $2 at Goodwill, and the standard DVD quality is not very good,
Quick question,
but
Kevin.
it has great production design. Yeah,
All right, I watched the movie. I almost bought it again, but I decided against it. I'm guessing you've watched it probably more recently than I have. What I remember from this movie, though, is that it tried to do almost like too many different things for what it was. Like, instead of staying basic,
Yeah.
they tried squeezing in too many things. Is that about right?
yeah, they really focused on the werewolf and aspect of it, and that is, but they made it more of like a werewolf movie than just a Red Riding Hood story. But maybe that's maybe what, I don't know, the some of the origins of the werewolf come from, so of the original story. But yeah, and Amanda Seyfried's really good in it. I think it's better than the bad reviews. I rented it from the library probably around like 2012,
This
so
could almost be
I can
the
never get into
werewolf
it.
version of Sleepwalkers, because it was way better than the reviews would indicate. But the only thing I remember towards the end is that her father's the werewolf, and he wants her to become like his werewolf bride. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I think because the whole Twilight thing, that it was much darker, but it still kind of had that romance vibe to it. Um,
Plus Virginia
and yeah,
Madsen. Come
so
on.
Yeah, no, really, yeah, really great cast.
Hey, Chris,
Lucas Haas.
have we brought up Sleepwalkers every podcast this year so far?
If we haven't, we've come close.
I don't know how we're going to squeeze that into the musicals one, but I'm going to work on that.
Well, we'll have to go and see what music was in the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll stay on Werewolves, The Company of Wolves by Neil Jordan, 1984.
That was one of the ones
that.
I almost brought up after I realized that I left it off on my list.
Yeah, that one was pretty cool. The Some of the horror aspect of it, I remember seeing it as a kid, and the transformation stuff was really scary, and it still was pretty creepy for me to watch it, like last week or 2 weeks ago. Um, eh, I think this was like his first or second movie. I'm not sure, but it was it was good. I enjoyed it. It was cool. And Stephen Ray was in this one.
Yes, yes, he was.
And The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Have you guys seen that?
Yep.
The Robert Wein, the German expressionist one from 1920.
It appeared on so many lists for when we were doing the underrated, overrated, but no, I haven't seen it yet.
I think it's Nicolas Cage's favorite movie, in where he plays himself in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, and he talks about it a lot. And I've seen it in a lot of lists too, and it was on Tubi, and the quality on Tubi was so bad that I went onto YouTube, and it was much better. And yeah, the sets were super cool, and it was really good, and it also feels like a major influence for Guillermo del Toro, uh, along with, and this is the last one, The Phantom of the Monastery, 1934, which is a Mexican film directed by Fernando de Fuentos, and it hits a lot of the cliches. Do you guys know of this one? I would imagine probably not.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one.
Nay.
Yeah, I just typed in Gothic into my Criterion search, and it'll just like come up with movies where it's described, and there was like only 6 of them, and I was like, oh, 1934, so it's like an hour and a half, maybe a little bit less. So it's uh three hikers, not hitchhikers, 3 hikers, uh and they come across this monastery, and it's raining, and they go in there for the night, and there's all these monks, and then there's this like creature, and there's kind of like a love triangle going on because there's a man and a woman, they're married, but the other, it seems like that there's an affair going on or about to go on in it, predominantly through the movie, and kind of the woman gets kind of like under this spell as soon as she enters this place. It was pretty cool. But also it seems like Guillermo del Toro roots. Yeah. Those are mine.
Cool.
All right. Chris, you have any more?
I watched a movie today that I had seen on a couple of lists for the fairy tale stuff called Tale of Tales. It was directed by a French person, I believe, Matteo Garrone. And it had a pretty stacked cast. Selma Hayek, Vincent Cassel, Toby Jones, John C. Reilly. And it was an interesting movie. It's 3 stories that kind of come together and split apart and come back together. In the vein of like the old Grimm's fairy tales, the ones where, like blood and death and, no happy endings. And I was glad I watched it, but I don't know if I necessarily would have put it on my list. But it was definitely interesting and horror adjacent. I mean, like, this woman gets her skin flayed, another woman gets raped by an ogre. I don't know. I could definitely see Kevin enjoying it. Kent, you probably too, but that's more of a up in the air kind of thing.
So, to a lesser extent of
Yes.
Kevin enjoying a rape of an ogre.
Well, I mean, you don't see that. You don't see that. I mean, it's off screen, but yeah.
The worst part is I've definitely looked this movie up because I don't know. I think it came up like on iHorror maybe or something like that, and I was like, oh, Toby Jones and John C. Reilly. I was like, yes, I would like to see this, and then I just never. I don't know if I ever just never saw it available. Like, did you find it streaming?
I watched it on Tubi today. Yeah, I remember. This was again.
It's on Prime.
I used to have a program called Showbox that basically you could stream shit or you could download. It was basically pirating. And so for a while when I was at work, I had 12 hours a night where I wasn't watching anything. I would just watch, like everything that came out as it was coming out. And this was one of the ones that showed up towards the end of the time I was using it when I was watching, Doctor Who regularly, and that was taking up my nights. And I never got around to watching it before I just stopped using the program. Very striking, I mean, you can definitely tell it wasn't filmed by an American, but they used American actors and filmed it in English, so that was interesting. Yeah, I was glad I watched it. It reminded me of like a Terry Gilliam film. So, I mean, make of that what you will. I really enjoy him. I know there are people who don't.
My girlfriend saw this, and when I was telling her about this list, she was like, "Oh, Tale of Tales, I just saw that." She's like, and then as I'm like watching these movies, she's like, "You're watching that Tale of Tales?" And I'm like, "No," and I just didn't get around it, but it looks awesome. I looked it up then, and I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then it kind of got away. She was sick for like a week, and I had to go to the emergency room with her. So I, like I said, I didn't get to do as many, but it's on AMC Plus at the moment, and I will check that out. But not probably not this month because I am a little Victorian dressed out at the moment.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of stuff to watch coming up for this month too. So, all right, Kent. I know you've been sitting dying to give us your honorable mentions. So,
all right. This is exciting. Not really. All right. So first and foremost, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Have either of you seen this? Like, it's the greatest Scooby-Doo of all time, bar none. Make no mistake about it. But I don't understand how the hell it made it onto a Gothic horror list. Like,
I have not seen it.
Kevin?
I actually may have seen this. Direct to video 1998. I feel like I put it on in the video store when I worked days.
It used to be on Cartoon Network quite a bit every once in a while, and like it's a good story. Like they go down to like Louisiana on the bayou, and I don't know, there's some good side characters, and the animation's pretty good, the music's pretty good. Like it actually has a lot of things going for it, but I just for the life of me can't figure out why it's possibly considered Gothic horror. That's all. Unless maybe Southern Gothic, I guess. But even then, I don't see it. But I wanted to just include it because it made me giggle.
Well, are they on a? What's the storyline to it? So they're the mystery team. So what are they? The mystery machine. So there's definitely...
That's the name of the...
Yeah. So they're all about the mystery. Burden protagonist, Scooby-Doo. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know, man. It's good, though. It's good stuff. It's like the only Scooby-Doo I think I own on Vudu. Maybe I own the live-action movies, which I really enjoyed, quite frankly.
There's always a haunted house.
That's a whole other thing.
And a twist ending.
There is. You're right. So, all right. Other ones I have that kind of... Well, we talked about Sleepy Hollow, and I just watched that yesterday. I had a really good time with any number of people that were in it. Am I the only one that was thrown off, though, by Christina Ricci being blonde?
I mean, at the time, yes. Considering, a lot of the stuff I've seen since then, not anymore.
Right, not anymore. I think at the time it was very, just based on everything I'd seen her up to that point. Yeah, that's about the only thing I really want to add to Sleepy Hollow. Wait, no, there's another thing. The old Nickelodeon TV series, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Also did an episode on the Headless Horseman, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, that was like one of the first seasons, right?
I think so. I have all of them downloaded, and I have them on Vudu, but Vudu made the great choice of just putting them completely out of any semblance of order, so every time you go to a new episode, you have basically like 4 new faces around the campfire, plus like the brother duo until the older brother left the show, and then it's just the younger brother. So whatever, but yeah, good show, good episode, good times, great. I almost put Interview with the Vampire, but I just didn't feel like watching that movie again. I haven't watched it in a while, but I watched that movie a lot in the 90s to a point where, I honestly, if I don't ever see Interview with the Vampire again, I'm not going to be sad. Like, I really, really, really like the movie. It's one of those things, though, that sometimes you watch a movie too many times in a short period of time, you just give zero fucks about watching it.
When was the last time you saw it?
With that... the thing is, I'm not even sure if I watched it for any of my Octobers. I may have, and if I did, it would have been like year 1 or 2. So I've been doing that for close to a decade now. So I'm going to say, we'll say 2014 would probably
you
be
might
the
want
last
to.
time
I don't know.
saw it.
Like for me, like I've watched that movie. I saw it in the theater. I was a huge Christian Slater fan. So, and he wasn't always in like the biggest movies that were going to play in the the Holiday Inn theater that only had two screens, right? So when it would, because it's before the Movieplex or whatever it is. So,
hey, that place was big enough to have
and then like River
sleepwalkers.
Phoenix just died, and that was like a big thing. But I'm like #1 Christian Slater fan, so it was super cool. Everyone else went to see it because of Brad Pitt. Tom Cruise. It is like a perfect example of, and it's probably my #1 favorite Gothic horror movie of all time. But I felt like you guys probably talked about it, and I know I've mentioned it briefly here and there. But the scene where they do with Stephen Ray in Neil Jordan movie, where they do the play or their show.
Dude, that's the one scene we watched yesterday because Raylene was like, "What's the movie that they were on stage and they did stuff?" I'm like, "It was Interview with the Vampire," so I like brought it up. So that was the only thing watched yesterday. So that's
so incredible that scene. Watching it now, and then I saw Phantom of the Opera, and like they have a scene where this one of the people levitates, and it looks like they're like, and this is before we get to the Phantom, and it looks like they're like levitating without. It's really far away, 1925. But, like what, I don't know, what they did in Interview with the Vampire in that scene, like that's just a glorious. I've seen it so many times too, and I was like, do I want to watch it or do I want to get, I think I'm definitely going to upgrade it to Blu-ray because I do love that movie. And even more now than I did ever growing up, and I've seen it so many times because it was different than anything I saw back then, and especially of that time.
It was actually one of the few movies, and I say few, like if I said that I owned VHS movies that were actually from the store as opposed to like recording off of HBO or Fox or something, it was like one of like 20 to 30 VHS tapes that I actually went to the store and bought and loved that damn movie. It's so good. And I mean, Banderas, like I always forget that Banderas is in it until like
he shows up in the dark.
Else that's awesome in this. And
the story is Christian Slater auditioned for that part of Antonio Banderas, and oh my god, how horrible would he have been? And he didn't want to come back, but it wasn't. But because River Phoenix died, and he kind of felt, he's of that era of actors, and like Hollywood actors hanging out on the scene and shit. He ended up doing it, and then famously donating the money that he got paid for it to the River Phoenix Foundation.
Yeah, I love his role in it too. Like, I mean, because it's not a huge role, but because he's in it from beginning to end in capacity. Plus, he's in it during Nice to Meet You song.
And it's just, and it's a central role, but it almost but then huge chunks of the movie, you forget that he's even in it, and it's like the movie's called Interview with a Vampire because you just get taken by all the glitz and glory of that movie.
Did either of you watch the series that was on AMC?
I have not.
It didn't look that good, I didn't think.
I want to say that they started throwing a lot of the politics into it, and I was like, at this point, Anne Rice is dead, so she can't even bring up whether or not she would be approving of that. So, I mean, I was going to say, when Kevin, when you were saying you watched it for Christian Slater and everybody else was watching it for Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise, I watched it because I read the book before it came out, and I wanted to see how it translated. And I think they did a pretty good job. I enjoyed it. I mean, I also enjoyed Queen of the Damned, which was a far cry from being anywhere near as faithful to the books, but
A lot of people who like the books
was.
like Queen of the Damned more. Do you like Queen of the Damned more than Interview with the Vampire?
No, Interview with the Vampire is definitely way closer to the books. And Queen of the Damned has probably my favorite soundtrack ever in movies, so that's got that going for it. But they attempted to combine Vampire Lestat and Queen of the Damned and ended up doing just a worse job for trying to combine them. But at least Stuart Townsend ended up doing that instead of Aragorn, which gave us Viggo Mortensen as, like one of the best characters in movies. So
yeah. So I'll finish this off with the last honorable mention, and I think it's a movie I brought up, I don't know, a few months ago, and I just didn't have the time to watch it. Was The Vampire Happening, which is the 70s sexy movie on Amazon Prime, where this young actress ends up like at the castle, and she reminds, I don't know, Dracula or whoever of like her grandmother back when she was pretty, and I don't know, there's sexy parties, and it's everything like you think of from a trashy 70s movie, but it's also fun if you're okay with those type of movies. It's a lot of fun, quite frankly. When Dracula shows up to a party in a helicopter with a bat logo, a vampire bat logo painted on, you know you're watching something of high quality. So once again, I will definitely recommend The Vampire Happening on Amazon Prime. So
Sold. Put it on my watch list.
Yeah, for
did you use the word? Yeah, you used trashy. I was like, did you use the word trash? Because you had me at that.
And I guess the last thing, we always find out what people are watching as of late.
I think I saw The Vampire Happening.
Have you really?
I think I did.
Chris, you have terrible taste in movies.
Well, sexy vampires, how can you go wrong?
That's how I looked at it, man. Like, it just sounded so absurd, and it delivered Kevin, all you have to do is watch the trailer, and I'm convinced you will be 100% sold. Like, yeah, I need to see this.
An hour and a half, it's 70s trashy. Like, yeah. It's an hour and 42 minutes, so... But yeah, if it's under 2 hours, I can pretty much, I'll do it. It seems like it probably should be an hour and a half. It should have 12 minutes cut off, and I haven't even seen the movie yet. But
oh yeah, you could definitely cut off some time, but not too much, or else you're gonna lose too much of the trash.
Oh, okay, then we won't want to do that. So what I've watched. So many movies. I've been trying to catch up on newer movies, but I will keep it to. At first, I just saw out of my collection Ravenous, and I haven't seen that movie in like 10 years. I bought it at Goodwill for probably like less than $5, and I always thought that movie was cool. It's been a long time. I really didn't remember it as well. I kind of remembered parts about it as it happened, but I really didn't like. It's really cool, it's really great, but I really didn't the ending kind of like wasn't as good as the rest of the movie, and it kind of bothered me. And usually I don't have a problem with that, but you guys love Ravenous. Everyone that I know loves that movie.
We've talked about this on here, right?
Yeah. I have to rewatch it. It's been a long time, but I was disappointed, especially based upon like the cast. Especially like a lot of the people who were backup players are now people that have fucking like Jeremy Davis, Neil McDonough. Like people that I know from a hell of a lot of other things that I hadn't seen them in before.
Yeah. Especially Jeremy. Yeah, Jeremy Davies.
I don't really know if I knew any of those guys aside from Jeffrey Jones when that movie came out. I knew
David
Arquette.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I knew who Guy Pearce or Robert Carlyle were, for example.
I knew Robert Carlyle from the Full
from
Monty.
Trainspotting.
Oh yeah, Trainspotting, Full Monty.
Full Monty came out beforehand, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
And,
so I would have known him.
And Guy Pearce I knew from
Memento?
Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Oh.
Before this.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, yeah, I don't feel alone. Robert Carlyle is good in it. I don't know, there was sort of like, it had like a goofy vibe to it, which I was okay with, and then, but I mean, it really doesn't. I don't know, I guess it was kind of weird, but, yeah, Jeffrey Jones was actually pretty good in it. And I did not, actually realize, that he was, arrested, or any of that. Was that before Me Too?
Yes,
so.
before Me Too. I want to say it was probably like 2004, 2005.
Oh, wow. So that's like why you never saw him.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so I've seen some new movies. I saw Barbenheimer. I went and saw Barbie and Oppenheimer back to back. It was, both of them were really fantastic. I won't like break it all down, but the one thing that was cool about it was, it was on Thursday night preview, so Barbie was at 4:10, and then Oppenheimer only had the one showing. So I went to Barbie 4:10. There was a bunch of women there. Actually, I was the only guy besides one other guy, and he was dressed in pink with his girlfriend. I went by myself, and I laughed throughout the entire movie. It was super super good. And uh, and then Oppenheimer had a very different crowd. It was all old men, like over the age of 70, for the most part. So it was kind of cool to go to like two movies back to back that I've never done that before. It was, I was there for like 6 hours. It was like, basically 5 hours for both movies. So it took a lot out of me, and it probably did a little bit disservice to Oppenheimer because Barbie was like so much fun, and I don't know. I love Greta Gerwig. I will go see any of her movies. I went and saw Little Women by myself. I saw Lady Bird by myself, in the theater, and I think now I have to see all of her movies by myself. Crowds of women of all ages. Uh, yeah, and then I saw Indiana Jones, The Flash. Uh, those are and Beau was Afraid. You guys get a chance to see any of those? Beau was Afraid.
How was it? Yeah, it's 3 hours long and it's not streaming yet, but I really want to.
I bought it. I pre-ordered it. I do not regret it. It's the best movie of the year for me. It's Beau was Afraid is number 1. Infinity Pool is number 2. Barbie is number 3. Oppenheimer's number 4. But yeah, it's a perfect movie for me. So, but yeah, 3 hours. It's Ari Aster's masterpiece, and it is not a horror movie, but it's totally done by someone who's done horror. It's so excessive and crazy, and all the performances are great. And it's a journey, so it goes through different characters, and different parts of the movie have different characters in it. And Nathan Lane, I don't get to see him in too many movies so often. I feel, and in this movie, you're like, wow, people probably just underuse this guy because he is just terrific, or he just only does very selective about his projects. So, Indiana Jones, not great, but I would give it a thumbs up. But it's the most ridiculous of all of them. And yeah, so yeah,
Sweet.
So what about you guys?
Show and movie wise, I re-binged Justified to catch up before Justified City Primeval came out, and so far I've been enjoying that halfway through. I caught up on Secret Invasion with my wife, and I was absolutely disappointed in the potential that they wasted. I've watched...
Wait. Is it worth even watching then? Because I've been holding off watching Secret Invaders, and now you're making me sad with your words.
I mean, think about it. Samuel Jackson's first main thing with him at the helm of a MCU thing.
Right. Yeah, that's what got me excited.
It was disappointing.
Okay.
I don't know if I would even say watch it. I might say skip it. I've 6/8 of the way through The Witcher Season 3, and I can see why Henry left. The one thing I wanted to ask is, have you guys seen the trailers for the Saw and Exorcist sequels?
I have not.
I didn't even know there was a trailer for Saw, because last I heard, production got shut down.
Yeah, the trailer came out yesterday.
Kidding.
Oh, son of a bitch.
With the release of it?
And I believe it's releasing in October, like they did with most of them.
I think the only one that didn't was the last one. The Chris Rock one, I think, got released in the summer.
In July.
Well, I started it and I fell asleep.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, the kills were cool, but overall... Oh, no, this is coming
Beyond
out...
predictable.
Coming out September 29th, so I guess right before October.
Reverse 9 Deuce. That's great. I mean, it's September, the 9th month with a 29. This is a movie that is set for me, and I can watch it before I go mad in October. I'm excited.
And I saw the trailer for the Exorcist, the new one coming out. I didn't even realize it was an Exorcist movie at first. I was like, "What the? This looks good." And then I was like, "Holy shit, that's Ellen Burstyn, and she's playing the same role." I was like, "Damn." So I'm hesitantly hopeful for both.
Weren't they doing a TV show, or did they already do the TV show?
They did the TV show. I want to say, I think it had 2 seasons, maybe. I mean, this one is called The Exorcist something. So
Evil Demand Sacrifices.
Believer.
Well, maybe.
Yeah. The Exorcist Believer.
Yeah, I have both things pulled up, so as soon as this podcast is over, I'm definitely going to watch both of them. I'm excited.
All right, and what about you, Kent?
All right, so I did watch 2 Marvel movies. I finally watched the Doctor Strange into the whatever the fuck it was. Had a lot of fun. I'm still mad that I didn't watch WandaVision, because I know I would have gotten a little bit more, but I read up enough on WandaVision so that I wasn't necessarily in the dark while watching the Doctor Strange movie, and that was probably my favorite Marvel movie in, I don't know, quite a few years. I don't remember the last Marvel movie I really, really thoroughly enjoyed. I didn't watch the newest Guardians yet. I don't know if that's on Disney yet. Probably the last Marvel movie I truly, truly loved was Thor Ragnarok. I really enjoyed. So it's been a while that I was that happy. And of course I followed that up with Eternals, and I was immediately sad. The casting for Eternals could not have been worse. Like, it was a star-studded cast, but it didn't make sense. Like, you would have reversed Kit Harington and Richard Madden, first and foremost. You would have given Kit Harington the lead. He would have been better lead in the fucking movie. I don't even know what the fuck Selma Hayek was doing. Angelina Jolie, I don't even know why the fuck she's on my screen anymore, because I never really liked her. I would say, like, the high end for me was, like, everybody else that was, like, I don't know the characters' names at this point, but, like, the girl, she played Connie in Walking Dead. She's the deaf one. I really liked her. I liked the black dude. He played Limon in Bullet Train. He was awesome. So it was like all the side characters I really kind of got into, but the main ones I gave zero fucks about. So I'm not recommending Eternals for anybody that hasn't seen it, and we're never getting the sequel that was promised. So, and I'm okay with it. So they can go fuck off.
When I do my list, redo my list, I think Eternals is going to be at the very bottom.
Dude,
and right above it is going to be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
What? That movie's... It's just as much Sam Raimi as it is a Marvel movie.
I really like Sam Raimi, and I was super fucking disappointed with that movie.
He felt less like a hired gun than the rest of them.
The biggest change is that red means go and green means stop. Ha ha ha. Like, I remember people being like, oh, the musical fight is so badass. And then I see it, and I'm like, this is what fucking people were, like, going insane over? No, I thought, fucking, what's her name? Elizabeth Olsen did a really good job in that. Except for the fact that, like, it immediately undoes, like, all of the fucking growth that she showed through WandaVision, which is probably the best Disney Plus show that they've done so far. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah. I still had fun with it. I don't know.
It wasn't horror movies. It wasn't horror. Yeah, I would agree. Phase 4 and what we've seen so far of Phase 5 have not been good. It hasn't been anywhere near as bad as all the naysayers and the doomsayers are saying. Like, I watched Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and I know that's like the lowest rated thing that they've got out there, and I was like, it was actually pretty good. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, I actually liked it. I saw that too. I liked it more than the other two Ant-Man movies. And the only thing I really would notable about him was that I really liked Michael Pena in it, and he's not in this one, and I still liked it more than the ones that he was in. So.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, like, the biggest problem Marvel's got going is that they're diluting the brand so much.
Yeah.
It was one thing when we got 2 movies a year, and they built up to, an Avengers movie, after 2 years, 4 years, whatever. But we're getting, 2 movies, 4 shows, and nothing to tie everything together. So, like, all of the fucking arcs are, like, separate. We haven't, they've introduced enough new characters that you could have had a new Avengers and not touched any of the original ones if all those actors wanted out, and they still haven't done it. And, I mean, we're looking at the next Avengers movie they're talking about doing is going to be 2026, and we're only in 2023. That's, like, too little too late. That's the opposite of, like, what fucking DC was doing, where they were trying to throw, we'll do one Superman movie and then we're into the fucking Avengers kind of shit.
Yeah. The best has been Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and that has nothing to do with any of the other movies. It feels like it doesn't feel like it's to expand the universe. It's to close out the Guardians and James Gunn, what he started with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Because the first one was the introduction, and then the second Guardians was, like, really into what was going on in the Avengers universe. And then Guardians 3, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's probably the best one in a long time?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
the Eternals was just like
Eternals sucked.
It was a bunch of money spent on Chloe Zhao won Best Director for Nomadland, and then she did a Marvel movie. And basically, probably because she didn't really get So what I heard from Gus Van Sant was when he did Good Will Hunting, is that if you're nominated for Best Director, every studio, everyone tries to get a deal with someone. Every studio is trying to get a deal with someone. So if they win, then they have their next project. And I feel like she just took the biggest paycheck and did that. And she tried to do her own thing, but it's like she's got some movie about a horse or something that was before Nomadland. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And I feel like what Kent was saying, Salma Hayek,
Nomadland was a good movie, but it's not something that you turn around and say, let me give this director a tentpole action movie and $200 million and see what she can do.
During COVID, so it was probably even way more expensive than it needed to be. The visuals were cool, but
And Eternals aren't like a mainstream thing, and they changed them so much that I don't know what the fuck they were going for. Like, in the comics, Thanos is a fucking Eternal. Like, the whole reason he's fucked up is because he's the son of an Eternal, 2 Eternals, but he's got the fucking deviant virus, which is why he looks like he does instead of being all fucking handsome and good looking like the rest of them.
So they should have probably added that before they killed him.
Yeah, like the Harry Styles character is literally Thanos' brother. Well, he shows up in the after credit scene in Eternals.
Yeah, I don't think I even made it far.
Right after that, they promise, Eternals 2 will return.
It makes me excited for
Guardians
DC.
3 was definitely the best.
It makes me excited for what James Gunn's going to do with the DC thing, and that they're rebooting that also.
I mean, I'll have to see. Like, as much as I love comic books, when you throw out as much as you have, you're just going to dilute everything anyways. And between, the boys and all the shit going on at Prime, Marvel, DC, Netflix signed a deal with Mark Millar to bring the Millarverse to, like the guy who did Kick-Ass and Old Man Logan and Wanted, to bring his stuff to Netflix. So, I mean, there's just a shit ton of stuff going on. Like, I really liked Invincible. 3 years later, we're finally getting 4 episodes, and then who knows when the second half is going to come out because of the strikes. So, yeah. I don't know. Like I said a couple months ago, one of my big projects this year to actually get done is to go and rewatch all of the Marvel shit and then reorganize my rating that I gave to them, right before Endgame came out. We'll see if that actually happens, because the video game slate has been super full this year as well.
Yeah.
Right, and that was actually something I was going to get to after. I had a couple other things I wanted to just... I watched a lot of shit on Netflix lately, which, I'm mad at them for the money. I watched the American Gladiators documentary, which I would definitely recommend for anybody that liked American Gladiators back in the day. I finally finished all the Toys That Made Us series. I've almost finished the movies or the films that made us. I don't remember. I think it's the movies that made us. And I tried watching I finished watching the Pepsi Harrier Jet one, and that one they just dragged on for fucking ever, and I would say don't even bother unless you have at least an extra hour that you don't mind just wasting.
For what, the Toys That Made Us, or is it just a documentary on its own?
The Toys That Made Us?
Good.
No, that one's good.
Those are great.
Watch all of those.
Even My Little Pony.
And same with the My Little Pony was that the last? No. I don't remember what the last one was. I saved like all the girl toys till the end, so it was like that, Barbie, and I feel like I'm forgetting one of the other ones that I watched at the very end, but they were all fun. No, this other one, I think it's like Pepsi Where's My Jet or something like that is the one I'm not recommending. I'm also going to recommend, if you liked Squid Games and wanted a real-life equivalent minus all the murder, there's a show called The Physical 100 where they play games, and it's like all these athletes of various sports and bodybuilding and stuff competing, and that was a fun show. Once again, if you liked American Gladiators, you might enjoy that. It was just a competition. I think it was like six or 8 episodes long. We binged in a day. It was fun for me, at least. The last episode gets a little tedious because at that point it's like all about stamina, so you're just watching the same kind of stuff, so to speak, whereas the variety just isn't there, but that makes sense in a competition.
I like the challenge a lot, so I've gotten into that in the past year, and that sounds sort of similar to that.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's all South Korean, and it's a lot of fun. And the best part is, like, the dubbing is kind of like Iron Chef dubbing style, so it's pretty fun, by and large. Even though I think there's, like, one white dude who's an American, they still dubbed over him half the time, even though he was perfectly capable of speaking English. So, there is that. One thing I found online was I got excited. It was like horror anthology TV series that you can now stream. First thing I saw was Tales from the Crypt. I was like, wow, when the hell did that happen? And it showed that it was on Tubi. So I go to Tubi, look up Tales from the Crypt. The ass clown that wrote the article clearly wasn't paying attention. It's the 1974 movie. It has nothing to do with the TV series. So the TV series is still not streaming anywhere, rest assured. Unless you Tales from the Crypt Keeper cartoon, which is also on Tubi, but yeah, the original series isn't. And finally, as far as...
That's still happening, because I remember, like, I would see that Tales from the Crypt would be on, like, TV, and then I'd be like, I want to watch this, and my dad would be like, no, you don't want to watch this one. Not that it was bad, but he just knew that I was younger, and I wanted to see, like, the Crypt Keeper,
right.
And that was actually on the Gothic horror list.
It was. I saw that was on one of the lists. I was like, yeah, it has a place. But I saw a movie. Well, okay. First off, I want to see a movie called The Sadness. It's on Shudder. I plan on watching it before I get rid of Shudder. It sounds like a really, 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 really messed up movie. So, Kevin, I think you'd feel at home with this. But more importantly, a movie that I'm thinking Kevin may have seen. Have you seen or heard of a film called Speak No Evil?
Yes, my girlfriend made me watch it last year, and she's like, you need to watch this. And it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Slow burn.
I don't know if I'm going to say... that movie kind of traumatized me. I can't say that about more than, like, 2 or 3 films in my life, but, nah. Like... I like how creepy the one dude was. Not like the dad, but the people that they visit. That guy was great, but
the unemployed guy.
Yeah.
Right? Wasn't he? He's like, I'm unemployed. Yeah, that guy. That guy's awesome.
He was great. But man, that ending, like the last 10 to 15 minutes, just caves in your chest with a fucking sledgehammer. And I'm telling anybody listening to this, it probably isn't for you. But if you really like all this other extreme stuff that we sometimes partake in, give it a shot. But I don't know, some of it just kind of hit a little hard, in my opinion, at least. Interesting story. Just a really impactful I would say last 10 minutes.
All kind of fits into place.
Yeah, like, and I already knew.
And the way
I knew what to expect. I already had it spoiled for me, but it was kind of like the whole seeing is believing type thing. Like, oh, okay, they really showed this, and this. So, Chris, if you ever plan on watching this, don't watch this with anybody.
I heard about this. Like, I had it spoiled for me somewhere, because looking at the movie and then reading the review, I was like, yeah. I must have read something on the internet about it.
Yeah.
Close to The Vanishing. It's like, that's what it really kind of reminded me of. Not everything about it, but it had like that kind of twist ending, but it also all seemed pretty inevitable. I don't know.
It did. That is the thing. It felt really inevitable if you watch enough of this stuff. Like, I felt like you could kind of figure it out pretty early on.
Your mind, but you're like, you don't want that to happen, so you're like the whole time watching it, and like your mind, not that I knew exactly how it was going to unfold, but you're like, you don't want that to happen. You want somewhat of a, resolution that you're content with. I don't know, but yeah, but also, the movies that, once you watch it, it like gives you this like feeling of the pit of your stomach, and then, but it like rings a bell at the same time where your brain starts thinking, but your like stomach is like, ugh, you just got punched in the gut.
Yeah, I'll tell you, this is probably the second movie that made me feel this way. There was only two movies. It was this and The Girl Next Door. That movie just fucked me up that when I saw it. Like, not the comedy one, but the much darker one that's... And that didn't even set me off too bad until I read up, like, on everything that was, like, based in reality about the movie. I was like, okay, well, that feels wrong. So,
yeah, that movie's on a list. I haven't seen it, but that's on a list of, like, with, like, Salo and just, like, Antichrist.
I mean, I can
like,
give you a list, Kevin.
It's on that list.
You're just...
Yeah, there's, like, a list of, like, the 50 most, like, hard to watch movies.
Yeah, for me, it hits.
The Serbian film. Serbian film.
Yeah. Cannibal Holocaust is on all those lists, and I'm like, there's one whole scene that's kind of tough to watch. Like, people need to stop putting that on those lists, but that's my soapbox stand.
Have you seen Untold Story?
No.
Have you guys heard of that one? It's like a Hong Kong Cat 3 from 1993. It should be on that list. I imagine it probably is. And it's like there's one scene that's like, but that I highly recommend the Untold Story.
Okay.
But
I'll check that out, I guess.
It's also true crime. But anyways.
I do want to bring up something when you guys were talking about Marvel and all this. I came across this earlier in the month. It was a video on YouTube. I would definitely suggest people watch it. It's called Why Modern Movies Suck, and then there's a dash, and then it says the strong female character.
Yeah, you're watching The Critical Drinker now.
Is that who that was?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I feel like nobody commented, and I'm like, maybe people didn't watch it to like actually understand, like, this made sense. Like, this wasn't making fun of like women or women actresses. It was making fun of how horrible the writing is for these characters, which is, something we've talked about a few times with just the movie Prey, for example. I wish more people would watch it so they understood, like, when I bitch about movies, and especially about female characters, it's not about their performances typically. It's really about how horrible the writing is. So, just trying to bring some attention to that. And as Chris alluded to earlier, video games have occupied this whole fucking month between Diablo 4 and now Remnant 2 is out. I'm like, I came into this podcast unprepared because I've sunk X amount of hours into both games at this point.
Where you're playing Remnant 2?
Where?
Yeah,
on
what?
Xbox.
Xbox. Oh, damn you.
Yeah, Eric and I both got it, so we could play. I don't have a good gaming PC. That's why
You need to rectify that. But at least Diablo 4 is crossplay. So.
Yeah. Well, here's the fucking thing. All right. Let me bitch for half a second. Like, nobody. I've played Diablo with 2 people, and I have probably like 10 friends that play it. Like, nobody's like on the same level. Nobody is on at the same time or whatever. I'm like, I thought I was going to play this game with more people, and I've legitimately played with Eric and his wife, and then a dude in Britain that I talk to every once in a while, who would be perfect for this podcast because he's kind of like a mixture of all 3 of our personalities in some way. Like, he has seen like all the awful, horrible shit that Kevin and I watch, but he probably reads. He's probably pretty well read like you are, Chris. So. Yeah. He actually got me to watch A Bay of Blood, which I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's a lot of stuff that from that movie that inspired the original Friday the 13th, and possibly the ending or a scene from Assault on Precinct 13. So, if you ever get a chance to watch A Bay of Blood, it also has like 2 or 3 other names. I don't know if it was Argento, it might have been. It's worth a watch, though.
No, I haven't seen it, but yeah.
I haven't seen it either.
Dangerous.
I think it was like, I don't know, it was on like one of those free to stream, with ads thing. So I don't know. I just talked to my Roku and said Bay of Blood, and whatever came up. So it's old. It's got the the awful looking fake blood and stuff, but I don't know. I think you guys both would enjoy it. So, what are we doing next month?
All right, guys. I think pretty much that's going to wrap up this month. And next month, we are going to be doing a guilty pleasure and a hopefully fan favorite. But we're going to be going over the entire. Shit! I just blinked.
Boy,
the entire Phantasm. What the hell's the word?
Franchise?
Thank you. There we go.
Franchise,
Yeah.
yes. I couldn't think of it either.
The entire Phantasm franchise.
I don't know. It's kind of fun just watching you just spin your tires there for a minute.
The spinning tires goes back to Maximum Overdrive. I've only seen the first two, but maybe I've seen Phantasm 3 when I was younger, but I don't remember it. But I really enjoyed them, so I'm hoping that 3, 4, and 5 at least continue the enjoyment. And I know it's stuff that we brought up, but it's out there enough that I think it's something that people have heard of, but not necessarily something that especially more modern audiences have seen. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I ended up buying there was a set, the Phantasm series on Blu-ray, and it was on sale, and I snagged it for Kevin because I knew we had difficulty finding, what was it, part 2 to stream, I want to say?
Yeah,
I think that was the one that wasn't
thank you.
anywhere.
Did the discs come, were they individual or were they stacked on top of each other? I was kind of curious.
I didn't open it yet. I will let you know, though. I'll take pictures.
Okay. I was just wondering, some of them, they'll stack, 4 or 5
weird, I'll
discs
take
all on,
pictures.
one spindle.
Yeah, I imagine that.
All right.
I don't know. Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, I haven't seen. How do I have the Saw 8 movie collection? I think they're the flip ones. The spindle is the bad way to do it. It's always the most annoying one.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to do the middle ones. Especially.
Yeah.
I'll say this without saying much else, since I don't think either of you've seen the part 5.
I don't think
one.
it's the only one I haven't seen. I believe.
I'm just curious. I know we'll talk about more, but when you watch it, when you guys watch it, just send me a message and let me know if you feel sad while watching it, because that was my immediate vibe. And also know that at one point Undertaker was supposed to be in that movie.
It makes me sad that he's not in it now.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. For whatever reason, I don't have sadness while watching horror movies, but something about it, I was just this was definitely the epitome of the end of an era, I guess. So maybe because I just grew up loving these movies, maybe it hit me weirdly. I don't know. Maybe you guys won't feel sad about it at all. I have no idea, but I'm curious. And then September we're doing Hannibal?
Yep.
Right?
Yep. September is Hannibal. Do you want to just give a preview for the rest of the year?
Absolutely. The people that haven't, had a brand new podcast in 5 months really are yearning to know this. My bad, everybody.
October is going to be Horror Icons. That's one I'm looking forward to. November is going to be a discussion piece. What makes horror versus what makes thrillers. And December, to stay in the non-horror theme for the month of Christmas, we're going to be doing our favorite musicals. Although I will be talking about Repo the Genetic Opera. So there will be at least a little bit of horror in there. Possibly The Devil's Carnival, but I don't know if I like the music as much.
I don't know that one. I'll have to put that on my list.
It was the... I think it's on Prime. There's 2 of them. There were supposed to be 10, but it's movies made by the director of Saw 2, 3, 4, and the guy who wrote the music and the screenplay for Repo.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
It's
No shit.
yeah.
Well, thank you for...
All right, cool.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us again for another monthly podcast that will eventually be up like 6 months from now. And Kent and Kevin, thank you for joining me as well.
Oh, yeah,
Kevin,
thanks for letting me geek out with you guys.
And thanks for just being here, I guess. Or thank you for being a friend and get Golden Girls song stuck in your head, maybe?
My mom is rewatching Golden Girls right now. Probably not right now because I think she's asleep, but yeah, in this month, yes.
I can't get rid of it on my YouTube TV. It keeps saying resume watching, so I'll mark it as say Marcus watched, and it just keeps cycling through season 3. I'm like, okay, I'm just stuck with Golden Girls and American Dad for some reason. Can't figure that out, but hey, we never talk about Golden Girls on the podcast, so now we have.
And just like that, have a good night, Internet.